Well, hey everyone, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, and welcome to Positively Osceola Live. And I know for a bunch of folks, that middle of the week area kind of gets this kind of pause in excitement, and sometimes pause in plans and goals for the week. But that is not the case with us, because today we have a really great friend of ours that does a ton of things in and around Osceola County for sure. And so we're super happy to have a friend of ours, and she is the State Representative for District 46, and that would be Kristen Arrington. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great, Keith. How about yourself?
Doing super. Got a smart lady here we're talking to today, and but really, we really do appreciate all you do. You've done it for a long time, and in many different ways in the community, certainly in small business, and now as a representative for us. And so we thank you for taking a couple of moments and speaking to us. And we're gonna kind of get right at it here if we can today. If I can get all my notes in the right area, because I know we have a lot to cover. And certainly this is post 2023 Florida legislature, the session rather. But still, of course, all those things are making their way into everyday life. And so why don't we just get right at it? So if you're looking back not too long ago, obviously, but how did the in your eyes, how did the 2023 legislative session go in Florida?
Well, it was most definitely a busy session, and I'm sure if you're following the news, you saw a lot of the bills passed, or heard the water cooler talk. We passed over 350 bills, which I think has been a record since I've been around. Passed a record budget. So did a lot of work. I have to say, those new freshmen coming in, they got at it right away, because we were sworn in the week of Thanksgiving. And then in December, for the first committee week, we had a special session with property insurance. And then committee week started in January. We had a special session during committee weeks. And then our session went March through May. And, a lot of those bills that we passed came into effect July 1st. So, a lot of you maybe you didn't hear about them during session, but you're hearing about them now because they did come into effect. So we did have a lot of action. Unfortunately, we did fight a few culture wars that many of us saw on the news. And that's what you most likely see all the time. But, probably about 90 to 95% of the legislation that we did pass was bipartisan. I feel like Osceola did good in appropriations. Between myself and the rest of the Osceola delegation, we brought home money again for affordable housing, for hotel conversions. And as you know from our many talks, that's very passionate to me. So, had some success as well with legislation that I was able to pass. So I definitely had some wins, and the district had some wins. But I do have to say, overall, those culture wars that we're fighting, those bills that passed, not only are they bad for everyday Floridians, but a lot of them are bad for our economy. And, we're seeing those effects with our tourist development tax dollars being a little bit down this last month, I feel.
If I'm right, so when you were a freshman, it was right smack dab in the middle of COVID and all that craziness. So as you look back now, when you went to Tallahassee this time, much different now. Do you find that the experience that you've had, I'm gonna guess you're gonna say yes, but I'd love you to explain a little bit about it. So does it make it much easier for you to navigate around the whole system itself, and because I know you're representing folks that are voting for you and folks that may not have voted for you. You're trying to do the best job you can. Is it easier now somewhat to navigate that system up there?
Absolutely. And, make a little joke about it. I mean, the Capitol is a very large building. Just navigating yourself around the Capitol is a lot easier coming back as a sophomore and knowing who the staff members are, having relationships, because, a lot of times the committee staff that does the research or work on the committee bills, because of term limits, they a lot of times control maybe some of the legislation that's come through before, or have opinions on stuff. So really knowing those staff members that you're able to work with, knowing the stakeholders on legislation, having now relationships with some of the members that have served with me that I've, talked to many hours in the dining hall or on the House floor, having those relationships with those folks and talking to them about things like motel conversions. And it just makes things easier getting things done when people understand my district, understand what's important to me, understand where I'm coming from, and also when we're able to find that commonality on things that we can work with. So definitely a little bit easier, but at the same time, I came back this time being in the super minority. party, which changes things a little bit for folks that don't know. That legislation that takes 2/3 of a vote to pass that haven't been able to pass in previous years was passed. So, a lot of times Republicans don't need us to get their bills passed. So it does change the climate, but there's still a lot of opportunity to work with those folks and find commonality to get things done. And, I really do love the process. And I became a deputy whip, which means that I had different members of our Democrat caucus that I talked to about legislation or see where we are on specific votes. And I had a lot of freshmen that were part of my team. So I really enjoyed coming back as a sophomore and being able to really help those freshmen out and try to make sure that they didn't feel the way that I did my first year going in there during COVID. Things being, not really a path, and really happy to kind of find our way around. I've really, really enjoyed working with our freshmen because we have a lot of great freshmen. So it's been wonderful to help assist them too through the process.
And I think you make a good point. I think, we all live pretty complex lives, most of us. And you kind of think, well, everybody obviously is aware that the legislative session is happening when it happens. But that's really not the case, depending on what you do for a living, really, what your lifestyle is. And now it's certainly all over the place, media wise. So this is when you think, wow, they just did that. Well, kind of, but I think that's why these topics are really relevant right now. So I'm glad you're sharing about them. So why don't you go ahead and in that light, on that same path, folks might not know those things that the causes you're up there working on and trying to represent. Why don't you give us kind of just a kind of an overview of, what wins you had, and we can even talk maybe a little bit about those things that didn't happen the way you'd like to have had them happen. So why don't you give us a little overview of that, if you would?
Yeah, please. Wonderful. As I mentioned, just kind of gave a little peek of, we were able to bring home dollars for hotel motel conversion for affordable housing, some money for City of Kissimmee because they're going to be doing a project. Last year we brought home money for Mary Downey and the Hope Partnership because they're also doing a hotel motel conversion. Right. And then Victory Village, which is already a current hotel motel conversion, was able to bring home funding for them to do some necessary repairs, dilapidated roof, and some stuff that the property needed. And we didn't want the residents to have to pay for that and raise the rental rates. And that's something that the transition house handles. So we were able to bring home some funding for that too. So that was a great thing. Last year we tried to get funding for that, but it was vetoed by the governor. But this year it got through. So it's just a reminder that, you just have to kind of keep pushing those things that you believe in, and you can make it happen. Legislation wise, I was able to pass a bill that we've discussed before, which is regarding guidance services for our students in the schools. And this legislation would expand the current notification to be middle school and high school students, and they would now be made aware of the career and technical pathways that are close to home, internships and apprenticeship programs. And additionally, that information would have to be presented to them in a language they understand. So I always use an example of underwater welding or, something like that. That's a very complex or is very interesting career, for students and for the parents to completely understand that, we want that to be presentable and to them in their native language. And that one is a really great win, I feel like, for all of Florida, but especially in Osceola, where we have something like Osceola Prosper, where all of our students have the opportunity to attend Valencia or OTEC for free. We really want to make sure that they know, about these career pathways so they can get a high wage job, but not just a job, but get really a career path to set them up for their future. Additionally, we passed a local bill in downtown Kissimmee to allow restaurants that are a little bit smaller than the current requirement to sell liquor. And they would still have to have the majority of their sales be from food and non-alcoholic beverages. But this helps, some of those restaurants that have come in older buildings and have smaller seating, and they weren't able to make the requirements, so to speak. So we have just a little special district in the Vine Street corridor. So that will help our restaurants and our small businesses, especially post-COVID, to be able to thrive and be able to, bring in some new folks. And then also another bill that I was prime co-sponsor on was the Best Buddies bill. And Best Buddies is a great program that helps our exceptional children and provides them life skills and mentorships with people to, do things that are fun, like the arts, not to put you on the point there, Keith, but, something like you would do, help a kid learn how to play the saxophone. Sure. Or something like that. And so what we did is when you now go to get your driver's license or renew your tag, you're able to give a donation to Best Buddies International. Okay. So that was a a wonderful feel-good bill that was bipartisan that I worked on with Representative Gottlieb. But it's always great, we don't hear about bills like that really do make a difference, and come from people from the community that come up with these ideas, or that are doing the work on the ground, and they bring it to us, and we help make legislation to help them succeed. And those were the wins that I would say I had, just as far as kind of stuff I was carrying on my own. Some of the things that moved but didn't get across the finish line was some HOA reform bills, which we know Point Siena and a lot of areas in the district, it's very important to them. And I'm very happy that our speaker currently, who is in charge through the next session, he did support an HOA reform bill that I co-sponsored, which does not changes it now where you cannot put a lien on the property if you're a homeowners association. So folks that would have something horrible like not pressure washing their driveway and could get a lien on their property, we will not be allowed to have that happen anymore, because unfortunately some HOAs are running them like a business and not a community. So we had two bills for HOA reform that moved through two committee stops but didn't make it to the floor. So I'm going to keep on working on those, since we obviously have leadership that's in support of it, and always looking for more funding for hotel motel conversions. And then, of course, our hydrilla problem in Lake Toho. When we drive by now and you see a grassy field that does not belong in the middle of the lake. And when we saw our historic flooding during the hurricane and the lake overflowed, we know that's because of having invasive species that added to it. And unfortunately, we did have some funding that was vetoed for the governor for some stormwater improvements. So we really want to work on finding a way to rebrand or work on really pushing those initiatives, because we know hurricanes keep coming to Central Florida, and it didn't just happen to Osceola, but also Orange County had some of that stuff vetoed. So I believe the state is looking at a different way to fund or look at water projects, maybe with the state agencies. I don't know anything permanent on that. I just heard some rumors on that. So hopefully, if that's the case, that's another way that we can work it. So those will be the things probably focusing on this next session. But also, once I get up there, I'll kind of hear some more of the priorities going on with the speaker, and some, maybe glitch bills that we need to fix. So some other things might get on my radar, and meeting with people in the meantime, there might be other priorities that come up.
And so you mentioned heading back up there. When do you think you're going to be heading up there? Is it the great and never really known mystery of special sessions?
Well, if I had my magic ball, I know that I'm going back in September. I believe it's the week of September 18th. The House will have their first committee weeks. But of course, we can always be pulled back for a special session. We've had two special sessions already on property insurance. We still have a lot going on where rates are not coming down and providers are leaving Florida. The problems that the Democrat caucus brought up that wouldn't be fixed with the last two special sessions. So if we do have a special session, Keith, and I go back up there, I really hope it's to freeze or to fix those rates for Floridians, because I think that is the most pressing issue on everyone's mind. But I haven't heard anything as of yet. So as of now, September 18th, I go back.
Yeah, I had marked a little asterisk next to the word insurance. I mean, that's the most talked about issue. It hits people right where we don't want to be hit. Certainly was not fixed in the last session. If you talk to a PI lawyer, they're not happy. If you talk to the insurance companies, they're seemingly not happy. So I'm not sure how we ended up at that particular not happy place, but I don't know what the fix is. Certainly this show, we could talk for 2 hours, and I wish we could. I wish we could. More and more, obviously, everybody's hitting over to citizens, and I think State Farm said they plan on sticking around. So love to have another conversation with you about that particular subject if we could. And
absolutely,
that's a big one. It is probably the thing that most homeowners are concerned about as we move forward, for sure.
Absolutely, and hitting the renters too with their rental rate increases too. So yes, it's the thing that our office hears the most about, Keith.
So I don't want to forget this as we get to a closing point. So you've got one more session in this particular cycle of your being a representative. So then you have some changes. You're looking to run for Florida Senate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And what was probably the biggest motivating factor in you wanting to be Senate?
Yeah, absolutely. So my term currently is a 2-year term. So it'll end at the end of November 2024. But I have already filed to run for State Senate seat 25, which will be an open seat. It's very exciting because with redistricting this last year, Osceola had the most growth, of course. So the seat became more Osceola and less Orange. It's all of Osceola County and the south portion of Orange, Meadow Woods, and Hunters Creek. But 75% of the potential voters live in Osceola County. So that's a very exciting opportunity because, as you know, Osceola does not always get its fair share, or does it get its representation. Usually in Tallahassee, I'm trying to remind folks that I'm from Osceola, Kissimmee, not from Orange or Orlando. But we haven't had someone in the Senate residing in Osceola County, and I think in about 22 plus years. So I think it would be wonderful for Osceola to be able to have a seat at the table, literally. And as you know, I have the passion and the drive for my community and hometown to, I feel, continue my work in the House and just go ahead and move it over to the Senate, where there's a little bit less of us. And I can think that I can get a lot more done than I already have accomplished. Really, really exciting times, but it is going to be a crazy election. I know that I'll have a tough primary, and we know that we'll have a tough general election. But if you know my background, I love working on campaigns. So I feel like I do have the campaign experience, and then also a great record in Tallahassee and relationships to help with the fundraising, but also to do the work back home.
So do you think your community involvement experience and, you know, the relationships you've built with organizations like the ones you're representing, say Hope Now and on and on and on, do you think that's maybe one of the things that is going to separate you from other candidates who might be running for that office?
I would hope so. You know, things move so fast in Tallahassee. Legislation drops quickly. You know, a lot of times there isn't a lot of time to vet things. So I love those relationships I have with, you know, folks like Mary Downey or individual teachers or the folks that this legislation actually really affects. Right. So I can, you know, get a call in or a text message real quick. But also, you know, having those relationships with those folks in the off season, like right now, I'm able to meet with them. We're able to talk. I'm able to find out what their needs are. So I have all that information going into the next session, so we can help with appropriations, or you know, we can help with fighting bad legislation. But I kind of use it. It sounds silly, but it's like a game of match. Those little card games you played as a kid, where, you know, you kind of match the sheep, and then you remember where the sheep is. I feel like it's a lot of times like that serving, where, you know, you hear of a problem or you hear of an issue, and you're like, wait a second, I know someone that helps with that, or I know somebody that works with that. And, you know, you connect people, or you find out people are doing duplicate services and they haven't ever connected with each other, and they both connected with you. So you're able to, you know, connect them. And I really, really, really love that. And it really does, unfortunately, feel a little bit like a match game. But I think that that's really, really important. So you're connecting people, not only constituents with the services they need, but the folks that are doing the work, making sure that they get what they need, but also, you know, connecting them so they're not doing too much overlapping as well.
For all of us visual learners, we appreciate that analogy. You know, I you know, we've talked to a number of folks that are representing the community in and around Osceola County specifically, and I think that is the deal for us. I think the relationships are a huge issue. I don't know how you represent without having experience in the relationships and with those leaders. You know, that is how you visualize and understand, in my opinion, what the challenges are in any community. And if you're not deep into it, I don't know how you do it. And you certainly are deep into it. And we see you at food distributions and everything else. So we do appreciate the time you invest in the area that you're representing. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all for all you do. And when I'm at all of those events, you all are also there covering them and making sure that we get out the information so folks in need can get those services. But also, you all do such a great job of touting some of the positive things going on in Osceola. And I love my hometown, and I love that positive stuff. So thank you. Yep.
I know it is your hometown for sure. So we appreciate it. We appreciate being able to hang out and experience it all as you do. So we appreciate your time. Like you said, this could be an hour-and-a-half show easy, but it is social media that doesn't fly real well. So we'll cut it.
I understand. I'm around for a bit though, Keith. So anytime, and then we can also talk. I think last session we did, you know, a follow-up once a week with committees and stuff. So anything you want, I appreciate the opportunity.
You got it. We're going to take you up on that for sure. We appreciate you, and And so the best of luck to you in the near future. If you head back up to Tallahassee and then beyond, certainly in the after the next session, then into the campaign, we will check back with you many times for sure.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You got it. All right. Again, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, along with State Representative for District 46, Kristen Arrington, together making a positive difference in and around Osceola County. Thanks.